Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Board HQ. We're here to recap the latest and the best from NBA free agency so far. It's been one of the slowest news cycles I think I've ever seen at the start of NBA free agency. It's kind of surreal to see how nothing has really gone on in the first few days compared to what we've seen previously, where in the first hour, there's tons and tons and tons of moves. Well, it's a lot slower this time. Is that the NBA cracking down on tampering? Is that the second apron causing issues with teams signing players out of nowhere? Who knows what it is, but there still are some big stories to cover here on the show today. Stuff that we plan on focusing on. We do want to go back and revisit the DeJounte Murray trade that happened with the Pelicans, but some of the big news, we have the OKC Thunder strengthening their team, the 76ers making tons of significant moves, Dallas adding on to a team that just made the NBA Finals. But to open up here, let's get started with the Cavaliers re-signing Donovan Mitchell on a 3-year, about a $150 million contract. But before we go any further, reminder to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more NBA content. We bring in for the first time Pips NBA. Thank you for joining me, Pips. First things first, Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell. Was this contract surprising to you? Did you think he was going to extend with the team?
Probably due to the change of the coach. I don't think he was a bigger stuff fan. I think he had something to probably say about change of the coach. Could be that he asked coach or me kind of stuff. Wouldn't be surprised with it. But he didn't take a long contract, so he'll probably like when you take a 3-year contract, like you are open for trades after 2 seasons. So yeah, he didn't commit, but he did kind of. So I think this is a good deal for both sides.
Yeah, you're not really voicing your confidence in your organization if you sign a 3-year contract. I can completely agree to that. But
Yeah.
it is significant because the thought was that he was not going to re-sign at all with the team, and that this summer would have had to have been the summer they trade him. But they consistently remained optimistic that he would return to the team, and now they have him, and they have a few more years to try and get things right here. What sort of moves? They already made the coaching move that you and I both thought they had to make. What are the moves on court that they need to make to really turn this into a contender? Because the East is getting better and better. We're gonna talk. I mean, we've seen the Knicks already with Bridges. The Celtics aren't going anywhere. The Bucks still have two superstars. Orlando have gotten better. This is a very difficult conference here. What do they have to do to match up with that?
I mean, they tried to solve shooting with adding George Niang and Struz. That didn't work out at all, and they had bunch of injuries. I think like Mobley was out for some time, Jared Allen was out from some time, Truss was out from some time, Mitchell was out, and Garland was also out twice during the season. So this was a season with tons of injuries, a lot of problems for the team. As I said, Strus and Young didn't solve the team biggest issue. So they need to find a shooter. Uh, I would also argue they need to give more minutes to the best shooter in the league on their bench. So yeah, I think like legit think that he should get more minutes. Throughout the playoffs, I watched him on defense to see if that's the issue why he is not playing enough, and I couldn't see it honestly. I didn't see any issues from his defense. He was trying really hard on defense and doing okay. So his offensive shooting should probably like the new coach will give him more time, playing time.
And you're talking, of course, of Sam Merrill for anybody
Yeah,
who's not aware. Who's absolute flamethrower of a 3-point shooter. We'll see if he can get more play time next season. Do you think that there needs to be a commitment to playing one of Jared Allen or Evan Mobley, or do you think it's still fine for this team to continue to run both of them in the starting five?
I think they can't do much about it. I don't think trading one or another this season will do much, especially because they're probably going to try to trade Jared Allen if they need to decide. And Evan Mobley is not probably good enough to play the five for full minutes. And Jared Allen will not get you much because last two postseasons he was injured.
Yep.
So yeah. it's a gamble.
So
So I
kind of
don't
stuck
think.
with
I
him.
think they're sticking with it. I think
So
they're
the
sticking with it.
solution is just you got to bring in shooting around these guys to make this
Yeah.
work. That's what they got to do to
Mitchell
get
and
through this.
Garland are great shooters. So you just need a third guy that can do damage.
Makes sense. Let's shift over to the Dallas Mavericks, coming off of an NBA Finals appearance, and they have strengthened themselves. Honestly, wasn't really fond of teams who were pursuing Klay Thompson, but to get him on this cheap of a contract makes a lot of sense. It's a 3-year, $50 million contract, but they've also brought in Quentin Grimes on, I think, what was probably a fair trade in the end, giving up, I think it was 3 second-round picks. And Najee Marshall also coming into the team. They're bringing in the right sort of players to cater to what they already have and strengthen on it. They've got good bigs. They've got Doncic, Kyrie, and they've got shooters around them, and they're adding on more of that. How well do you think Dallas stack up next season after these roster moves?
They improved, and like they improved on like Clay is better than Hardaway Jr. like by some quite a margin. I will say Grimes over Derek Jones is also an upgrade and also a big one. And the last one is Najee Marshall over George Green, another big upgrade. So they had depth issues, and they had only had two players to trust in the playoffs. Now they have a bit more with Clay there on offense, especially. Grimes is a great 3 and D guy. Najee Marshall can do a bunch of things. I think that's probably going under some radar because he is a really good player. He was great last season. Like he shot
Yep.
39% from three and played great defense, a good size for wing. So yeah, I think those additions are great and they improved. Everything else is on how healthy is Luka Doncic, of course. And we are getting season two of Derek Lively, who was great last season, one of the best rookies. He even made a three in the playoffs. Could be a thing that he works over the summer, and maybe he adds some shooting, at least corner shooting, and give more space to Luka, which will also improve Luka. So yeah, I think Dallas is looking upgraded their roster, and I don't think they are like one of the best teams, but they go to the finals and upgraded their roster. So we'll see.
Yeah, the problem with the West is that it's always so stacked. It seems like it gets more stacked every year, and you have to worry about the likes of like the Lakers are always just in the background. Can they make a good run one year? So it's always difficult to consistently compete
And
in the West. But I think Dallas are
also,
making the right moves to do it.
one little thing to say, like they go to the finals. Well, Luka wasn't 100% ready. Like we can talk about
Healthy,
it.
yeah.
Well, yeah, he was like very much. I think he had a couple of injuries at the same time, so that's a huge and healthy Luka, more spacing and quality, better teammates. Luka playoff Luka, they can beat anyone. We saw it this season. So.
One thing of note, Dallas are fourth in Western Conference title odds, so they still are pretty high up on the list of teams in the West. They're currently I'm looking at Bet365, make it easy. They're plus 1,000 to win the NBA championship, which is not a good price, but they are fourth for Western Conference teams, so that is something that is interesting. Somebody who has definitely moved themselves up on the rankings here, and they're likely priced as the second best team in the NBA, is the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, the prices are third favorites to win the championship, but that's because you have to go through the Celtics to get there because you're in the East. But I think if you're just classifying teams off of betting odds, the 76ers would be second behind the Boston Celtics. They had a huge start to free agency. They got Paul George to sign. They re-signed Tyrese Maxey, but some maybe more under-the-radar moves that do help this team. Andre Drummond is a backup big, comes in on a 2-year, $10 million contract. Eric Gordon on an incredibly cheap deal, and Kelly Oubre comes back to the team. I think some nice pieces to fill around the cracks, but let's start with the big one here. You guys shake your head at that, but let's start with the big one. Paul George comes in. What do you think, just straight up, of Paul George's fit with this roster?
I would say perfect fit. Like that's
Yeah,
just what they needed. Like one of the best catch and shoot guys in the league, guy that can create some gravity. He's not a great passer and creator, but he's decent enough. And they have Tyrese Maxey, and they're playing next to Embiid. So great shooter surrounded by Embiid. He can do a bunch of stuff on his own, unlike Tobias Harris. So I don't know if he's like second or third guy, doesn't matter, but he's up there with Maxi, and yeah, huge improvement over Tobias Harris. Like if you compare that, like huge improvement on the team, we can look back at the last season and see when they were healthy, like by the December or early January, 76ers were like second best team in the East, and they were overall probably like top five teams in the league. And now they improved on the third best player. Like they added Paul George. I don't know what people think about Paul George, but he's incredible, talented player. Like, and he improves a ton, especially when he's not the first scoring option, and he's probably third here, which is perfect fit for a perfect role for him. And he has size on the, he had size, and he's still good defensive player. So that's also huge.
I think what's big about this is that if there is an injury, there's going to be injuries. Paul George has suffered injuries on a yearly basis, as has Joel Embiid. There won't be such a big drop off. So, like, if Joel Embiid goes out this time, there's more cover there where Paul George can step up more so than the rest of the guys. Joel Embiid got injured last season. This team fell off a cliff. They fell to a play-in tournament position, right? So, I think that's
Yeah,
less likely to happen this season. And I think that, especially in a potential deep playoff run where the Sixers have faltered on a year-to-year basis, is the elimination games in the like game 6 of the second round, like at home against Boston, game 6 of the second round a couple of seasons ago. But that sort of game, they faltered. And I think they have a creator who can really will his team to get buckets. And just another piece like that is significant. Good gamble
but
by Daryl Morey to get all this cap space. And honestly, what a move to bring in Paul George.
yeah, and on the other side, when I shake my head, is okay. Gordon addition is okayish.
$3
Drummond
million.
addition
I mean,
is
that's fine
yeah.
to me.
But who did they lost better players?
That losing D'Anthony Melton, I think was a
And
mistake,
Batum
especially
is
with
huge loss.
this team.
Batum is huge loss. Uh, who is going to defend Force now?
Yeah,
Paul George. Paul George. Like that's not ideal. That's not ideal. Like I love Batum fit, like spacing, high IQ guy, and can defend 1 through 4. And now they don't have anyone in that role, and that's the issue. Like their defense at the 4 and side overall, they were the worst rebounding team at the 4s, like in the entire league. Like power forwards were crushing the, like they were allowing the most rebounds power forward. Okay, Embiid is pulling out, but nonetheless, like they had problems with size at the 4, and that's even bigger issue this season. So that's why I think additions are okay, but losing Melton, great defensive guy and good shooter, Batum, great defensive guy and good shooter. I think the depth is worse this season.
okay.
But
So
overall, like huge upgrade on with Paul George over Tobias Harris, which is like yeah.
so they'll have to find that power forward sort of player. Hey, I heard PJ Tucker's available if they need help at the 4. So
I mean, how big of an issue they have there? I think PJ Tucker will be good for 15 minutes a game. He's like honestly.
that'd be funny if he ended up back there. But yeah, of players available, that might be a guy to look at because it's a bit thin right now. I think Saric is actually still out of a contract. If you can get him on a pretty team friendly deal, that would be probably a decent way to approach as well. I don't think he solves necessarily the issue you said, but I don't think you can get a perfect fit here. It's hard to find the guy who can play defense and hit threes and defend the 4 positions. A lot of teams want that guy, so I don't think
Yeah.
that's the worst way to approach this position at all.
I hope
Okay.
honestly, I hope they will draft a 4.
Well, I think they got a nice
If
point.
they
They got a good point guard out of it.
yeah. But I think like they probably knew they are going for Paul George, so they could probably add some guy. They have how is the they have a young player on the roster. Uh, I just can't remember his name. I think he's great.
Somebody they drafted?
No, from the last season, was playing from the bench late into the season.
Oh, look. I'm not sure who you're referencing. Um, while I'm searching this, I do like Jared McCain quite a bit at point guard. I think that
Yeah, I
uh,
mean,
that helps them. And I do like Adem Bona, who they drafted second round. Are you talking about a forward who they started
yeah,
playing?
I think it's a point. It's a 4.
Are you talking about Ricky Council?
Yeah, about Ricky
He's
Grant. Yeah,
well, he's listed as a guard, but he's I'm not sure
his
he's
his size is enough to defend even like the force.
okay. So I mean that's not ideal. They probably will have to strengthen a little bit in that spot to go a bit
Yeah,
deeper. I feel like Kelly Oubre is going to get a lot of like corner 3 minutes on offense. So yeah, defensively that's good. That's something to sort out. But I mean, you can't deny this is a fantastic team that has the tools, that has the
sure.
coach to potentially go all the way this season. I asked, I was on another stream and I asked, what's the minimum requirement from the 76ers this season to be successful? How far do they have to go for this to be a good season? Would you say?
Maybe conference finals is like the like floor.
Agreed. That was what I said
Yeah,
exactly. So we'll see if they can
yeah.
do it. More importantly, we'll see if they can stay healthy. But the team on the other end of this Paul George debacle is the Los Angeles Clippers. They lost out on Paul George, had to try and pick up the pieces. They brought back Harden on, I think, a good contract, 2 years, $70 million. They paid Derek Jones 3 years, $30 million, which I think makes sense. I think they might not like the term of that contract, but it's cheaper in the present. And bringing in Kevin Porter Jr., I just don't really think that solves much for this team. The Clippers, it seems like this mini era here, or it's been a while now. This era here seems to be on the way out. How do you rate the Clippers so far from free agency?
I think the Harden deal is kind of good.
Yeah,
I think Derek Jones is. It'll be interesting in some small ball lineups with Batum at five probably.
they did bring him in
That
two. I'm
that's
sorry, I forgot to mention that. You're right.
yeah, and yeah, I don't like it for them. I don't think they even. It will be if they had any injuries, they will be in playing.
I,
That's
I, I
that's
think they could
all.
be healthy and be in the playing tournament,
I
honestly.
mean, if they get the entire season of healthy Kawhi and James Harden, I think they can still. Harden is
Okay.
always
What?
raising the teams. Terrible. He had even worse teams above this. So yeah,
But Clippers staying healthy is easier said than
yeah,
done. When you have Kawhi Leonard
yeah,
won't be just straight up will not be healthy all season. James
yeah.
Harden, I could probably say the same. Yeah, this is gonna be a tough season. I know the Clippers wanted to prolong this core because of they're moving to a new arena, the investment going into it. But yeah, it's tough for the Clippers to hang on to things and losing Paul George after trading away like this 5 year era. They traded away 5 first round picks, 2 pick swaps, Gallinari and Shea Gillis Alexander for Paul George. They won 3 playoff series in 5 years. This era ultimately has to go down as a failure. You combine
Yeah.
all playoff series wins for 5 years, and that's still not enough to have won an NBA championship. And they said in year one it was championship or bust that season. So yeah, there's no other way to spin it. It's a failure of an era
And
here.
also, they had a great coach for all those years. So
Ty Lue,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Couldn't
a
stay
failure. For
healthy, couldn't put the right pieces in place on a consistent enough basis, and I guess luck never broke their way. So it peters out probably just like this. I don't think they'll be able to really contend next season with this group unless they make a big shakeup. Next up is let's go back to what we saw before the start of free agency. DeJounte Murray on the move. If you've been listening, watching the board content all season with myself and Pips, you probably know our opinions of DeJounte Murray aren't super positive. That being said, Pelicans gave away quite a bit, but not an enormous amount for DeJounte Murray. How do you think the Hawks did overall in this trade?
I think it's a fair trade for both sides. We are a bit lower on the John Murray than Pelicans probably are. But
Yes.
overall, I think this is a fair trade. Good stuff for Hawks. They got 2 picks out of it. I mean, they fucked up when they traded for him, and now when you need to like damage control, I think they got a good enough
Yeah, two
back.
two two picks, Larry Nance and Dyson Daniels, I think is pretty
I
good
think Jason
for
Daniels is a good young player,
me
and
too.
if he can get some shooting around, he'll be a great. So good gamble, wins high defense for the Hawks. We'll see. We'll see.
I think
And
oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
and for the Pelicans, I I don't think DeJounte Murray solves absolutely anything for them. But if you are the price was okayish for that kind of player. I think they are moving away from Ingram, so they've got something back, so the fans will be like they are doing something.
I think they just felt like they needed a point guard. Here's one with a good amount of skill. Like, here's our best chance. This is the best point guard we can get. It'll be 2 first-round picks that we can afford to give up. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like you could even go for like a lower usage pull-up threat from three, who probably makes more of a difference here. I don't love
Who?
the fit, but I can understand why the Pelicans felt like they should do this and get DeJounte Murray. I guess if they can trade Brandon Ingram and get some other pieces, more floor spacing, that makes this team better. But yeah, I don't know. I
But
don't I
who?
don't
I
love this.
like who is the player they could go for that's better than DeJounte Murray?
Yeah,
Like,
that's the thing. There's not
yeah.
really any better player they could go for at this rate. I mean, I'm just trying to think of like who would help them more. Like honestly, like tell me if this is just an insane take, but is it that crazy to say that there's a chance that Kyle Lowry on a cheap contract for 1 season makes more of a significance to this team because he can bend the defense with a bit of pull up threat. He's still a decent defender, gets teammates involved. Like, I'm not saying he's better, but considering the investment, could that investment have been put in elsewhere for this team? And you bring in a cheaper point guard. What do you think?
I mean, he's not better, but on contract comparing that you don't
Or
need
even
to give anything.
how about Tyus Jones as well? Like he's an unrestricted free agent. Like that, I think
Yeah.
that's clearly something that makes more sense than Murray.
I I think with Tyus, it's their size, his size probably, and they will play small. So the Jonte, like I think Tyus is worth more than Dejounte Murray to most teams. So I'm not going to say that he isn't a better option. But yeah, I don't know. Like Pelicans are a weird team, weird roster. Uh, we'll see who is playing at five for them this
Yeah, well,
season. Like
to be fair, when they're healthy, they're very good. They're a top. They're
yeah,
like whenever they're healthy, they're one of the best teams in the West. It's just they're never healthy. They do need to
yeah.
find
But
a center.
who is going to play five for them this season? They
They
lost
probably
Java.
they probably hope it's Yves Missy. They just drafted him 21st overall. They probably hope it's him. At the very least, he should be a good defender out the gate.
Yeah,
Offense,
sure, sure. I
limited.
like him. I like him, but starting for a playoff team
That's the thing. Yes, probably not.
and probably. Yeah, I saw they lost Nance, who is a good player. They lost Valanciunas. So is it Zion at five most of the time? I don't
No,
like
you
it on
can't.
the
You can't do
defensive
that.
side, so no chance.
So still work to do, but
Yeah.
Pelicans trying something
Probably,
here.
probably someone in Ingram trade will be the option.
That's what they got to hope for.
Yeah.
Two more teams I wanted to actually three more pieces I wanted to cover here before we wrap up. First of all, let's talk about the Orlando Magic and the Denver Nuggets here. The Orlando Magic make a I think really nice move, 3 year, $66 million contract for Kentavious Caldwell Pope. After the Nuggets essentially said they'll be fine without KCP and they can just start Christian Brown in his place. I also saw reports that, the Nuggets seemingly are being cheap here, but I did see reports that the Nuggets actually offered a comparable contract to KCP, but he decided to choose Orlando instead. I got to be honest, if I'm Caldwell Pope and my organization says publicly that they'll be fine without me and they'll just start this guy in my place, I probably wouldn't really feel great about going back to that team. So I can see why he chose Orlando. By the way, awesome fit for Orlando. What do you make of this deal?
Yeah, I like it very much for Magic. They needed shooting like desperately last season, and they now have one of the best put-up shooters in the entire league. High IQ player, great defensive guy. It's not like they need defense, but they got another great defensive player. Like imagine the Sox and KCP on the perimeter. Like that's one of
Yeah,
the like
on
comparable
both
to
ends of the
Drew
floor.
Holiday
By the
and
way,
Derek White.
on both ends of the
Comparable
floor.
to yeah, yeah. It's great stuff. So well, especially if Sachs continues the shooting development, like he was a good shooter last season. And for the Denver Nuggets, this is like they close their championship windows by themselves being cheap, of the owner being cheap. So yeah, losing two good players back to back seasons, and after failing this season, yeah, this team is probably everyone is improving. They are losing two good players for back to back seasons. Yeah, this is not great for them, and I don't know what are the odds for them to win the championship.
They're second behind Boston.
Yeah, that's not great.
I disagree. Yeah, I disagree with those odds. I agree with what you're saying
Yeah.
there. They will find out shockingly and soon that Christian Brown is not in fact Contavious Caldwell Pope or comparable. I like Christian Brown, but not as your starting, not as a starting player. I like him as your eighth man, maybe, but not in the starting five. Uh, that is a significant loss. Treat your players well because you can offer him the money, but if you tell everyone that you'll be fine without him, he probably won't want to come back to your team. A lesson for other teams to consider. Let's move to another team making a lot of interesting moves. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder. They win the Isaiah Hartenstein sweepstakes. 3 years, $87 million contract. Pretty surreal to see how far Hartenstein has come in the last few years, going from like a non-existent player on Houston, a backup big with the Clippers, backup big with the Knicks, and now vaulted into this massive role where he's making a ton of money here. They also bring back Aaron Wiggins on, I think it's a pretty team-friendly deal. Isaiah Joe on, I'd say, not as team-friendly of a deal, but Isaiah Hartenstein's fit in Oklahoma. How do you like it?
Fit, we are yet to see.
Okay.
Overall quality as a player on Thunder, great stuff.
Awesome
Yeah,
signing to me.
you mentioned his stint with the Houston. I was heavily against him not getting minutes. I was hoping for him to get minutes on the team, especially when you look at that roster at the time who was playing in front of him.
That was for
Yeah,
anybody who doesn't know. So I remember when this happened because at the time PJ Tucker was playing at center for Houston. Like they had no
yeah,
centers. They
yeah.
just traded away Capella.
He was the on the wrong side of the experiment in the Houston when they played with Westbrook and Harden and tried to play like the small ball, like
That was the
absurd
small ball
stuff.
Rockets. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was the one to pay the price, and they lost a great player. It's a great young player. Everywhere where he went after that, he was just climbing up, climbing up, climbing up, and he deserved this contract. I'm a huge fan of. Is that hard to find? The fit is kind of questionable. Is he going to play next to Chet? Is he going to play like that? I mean, that's for sure that he's going to play some minutes next to Chet, but how much? How many minutes?
Yeah.
And what does this like? The main thing from Mike Diagonal was like space out. Everyone can shoot. Everyone like like space out. That's his like that's his ball. Like that's how he hoops. And now he added a player that's not shooter, and we'll see what is this going to do for their way of playing. But it's not difficult to involve Hartenstein in any kind of offense because he can pass, he can kill you against drop with floaters. He's great offensive rebounder. He can put in dunker spot. He's great pick and roll players. He's great at everything. So it will be easy to incorporate him on that offense. And as you said, they added Caruso for Gide, which is
Yeah.
very much improved roster now.
I think the key thing you mentioned there, or one of the key things you mentioned there, was offensive rebounding. I think that the Thunder are going to love his ability to generate extra possessions and a very analytically driven team in OKC. So to get, yeah, teams are starting to get more privy to this. Getting those extra possessions is massive. He's going to be able to provide that. Yeah, we'll see how the fit goes next to Chet. But I think if you're signing a guy for $30 million a year, pretty much $29 million a year, you probably should be starting him next to Chet.
I
So
mean, Chet, I think I didn't look into deep into the stuff, but Chet was playing some minutes with Jalen Williams, who is much worse player
J
than
Will, J
Hartenstein
Will, you
is.
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jalen, yeah,
rather than J
and
Dub.
yeah, and they were good in those minutes. And now I think Chet is okay to play the fourth. He's quick enough, and he can shoot. and the defense is not getting worse. It's only getting better. Putting Chet in, like, we never saw Chet in help position, but they probably try to see how it's looking as a help side, because Hartenstein is insane pick and roll defensive player, one of the best in the league. So I think it could work, honestly. Like
I
I
agree.
don't think.
I love this. I love this signing for the Thunder. I think that they're just getting better, and I like that they're trying to make this team better quickly while you still have J Dub and Chet on rookie contracts. I think that's important to get the
I
most
was
out of this
also
team.
say Caruso and Dort probably two out of three best point of attack defensive players, and also Caruso being one of the best overall defensive players. And yeah, that will do a lot for their
Who's
offense and defense, and experience wise playing with the Lakers. And I think this is great.
who comes off the bench for this team? Who starts? Was Shea, J Dub, Chet? Do you start Caruso? Do you start Dort? I think that's one of those two has to not start.
I think it's Caruso. I think Caruso is better player than Dort on like both sides.
So start Caruso.
Yeah,
That's what
I
I
will
do.
start Caruso. Yeah, and they
Yeah.
have good bench now with Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe getting good contracts long term, and they are good young players. They will improve, and also the I don't know what's this going to do for the how I can't remember the name of the young guy for they draft last season.
Casey Wallace.
Case Novalis, yeah, Case Novalis.
He's good.
I love him as a player, but the minutes will be like questionable for this
You're right. I
season.
didn't think about that because he's defensive
Yeah,
minded point guard, but there's not a lot of
yeah.
room for that anymore.
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
but they're now deep team. I mean, I even like Jalen Williams last season. His 10 minutes of the bench were always a good stuff for them. So yeah, they're a deep team now, and I love Thunder now.
Yeah, for a 34th overall pick, Jay Will has been great. Even his rookie season, he started their play-in tournament games, so he can still give them some minutes. This is a great roster that's only gotten
Not
better.
many,
Bring in
not many
size.
bigs in the league that have his size. He's huge, and that can shoot threes.
Yeah, agreed.
Like
Uh, Go ahead.
he will work for so many teams in this league of the
Agreed.
bench.
Agreed. And I think teams will be privy to that. They'll notice that. Final piece of business I want to cover here. Chris Paul joins the Spurs. 1 year, $11 million contract. Chris Paul, at 39, may have resigned to the fact that the championship is not going to come his way. But I really like this move for both sides of it. Chris Paul gets a more consistent role. He's the mentor for Stephon Castle, who was drafted 4th overall. I think this is an excellent mentor for him. And a leadership figure for a team led by Victor Wembanyama. The lob threat obviously is going to be insane here. Do you like this move for Chris Paul and the Spurs?
Yeah, this is a great move for the Spurs, and probably okay move for the Chris Paul. I think he could probably got into some contenders, but he decided to go this road, and can't say anything like good stuff like for him, for his mentally. And yeah, this is probably the end of Trey Young talks.
Yeah.
Should be, and yeah, that's a
I think
shame. I hoped.
he hoped the Hawks.
I would love to watch Trey Young and Wembanyama. Like
Oh my God.
that will be like one of the most insane duos in the history of the league.
Maybe next year. Chris Paul probably won't be around next year for the Spurs anymore.
Yeah,
So maybe next year.
yeah,
That's a move for them.
maybe.
All right. That will wrap things up. Any other moves you wanted to cover before we go?
I don't know. Maybe any words on your Toronto Raptors?
Um, well, the financial situation is bleak right now, so it'll just all depend on what they can get for Bruce Brown in a trade. And Gary Trent, oh my God, Gary Trent's market is incredibly low. Gary Trent, Isaiah Joe signed a 4-year, $48 million contract. It's looking like Trent won't even get that level of money out of free agency. So if that's the case, I'd say for the Raptors, bring him back. Try to get him like on a $10 million contract if you can. I don't like Gary Trent that much, but his shooting is valuable, and I think it's worth $10 million a year. But the Raptors don't only have the space to bring in a guy. What they need to bring in, they need a rim protector to come off the bench. They don't have that, and they need that to help with their young guys. Absolutely missing that.
Yeah. I like the trade. one of the like one-sided trade, one of the most one-sided trade you ever seen. Uh,
Oh yeah, sorry, I
yeah,
forgot to talk about that. So Jalen McDaniels, by the way, anybody doesn't know, was one of the worst players in the NBA last season. The Raptors turned him into Sasha Vezenkov, who might get some minutes off the bench as a shooter. David Mitchell, who will be their backup point guard. The 45th overall pick, they drafted Jamal Shed out of Houston, and Portland's second round pick for next year for a negative asset that they probably would have considered buying out for this year. Uh, it, it,
yeah.
the
I
Kings
like David Mitchell.
overpaid to stay under the cap. Wow, that trade was phenomenal.
Yeah, and I would say I'm a fan of Davion Mitchell, and I think last season he shot the ball 36%
36.
from
Yeah,
three,
36.
improved from the last season. If he continues improving, like even if he stays in that range, considering his defense, huge win for your team. Backup point guard for quickly, and who also got a big contract, but that's expected, I will say.
A bit too
So
big in my eyes. A
big, yeah,
bit too big.
yeah, but can't say that's in this market,
Can't
honestly.
say it was
Like,
bad, but it was more than I would have expected and would have liked. I was hoping 32 a year max. He got 35 a year. It's okay.
yeah.
Hopefully it starts to look better. It's a fine contract. It's not like a bad contract, but yeah,
I
trading
think
Bruce Brown seems significant now.
I expect a big season for him, man. Because this is,
I hope so. Not expecting the world from the Raptors, but just progression. Getting better. And we're talking about how about Houston? What's Houston's move for the summer? How you feeling about them?
I don't know. Like, I don't think they need to do much. I think they just need to get back some guys, and that's it. Like, we had some injury issues, and yeah, we drafted a great player. We need to see how he's fitting. We got Adams, and young guys are there. We've got AJ Griffin for free, which is absurd. And I was huge on AJ Griffin in the first when he was drafted into Hawks. I was watching every game of Hawks. He was tremendous. He had some insane games. So now getting him for free and running him in some games, great shooter, good wing size. So yeah, I like Houston coming into the season, and I think we are making the playoffs. So looking good for my Houston.
All right. Big best thing Houston can do all summer is not trade Alperen Şengün. Hopefully,
Yeah,
for your sake, they
just
don't.
just got his new jersey, so
Oh, look at that!
congrats today.
Is
So
that is that your fourth NBA jersey you
yeah,
own now? There's
yeah.
a third. So you have Trey
Four.
Young, you have Kobe, you have Harden, and you have
And
Alperen
yeah.
Şengün. Look at that! You must be a big fan if you're willing
I
to do
actually
that.
forgot to wear it today, which is absurd. I just come to the gym and just grab something to
Right,
eat
right.
and put on the show. But I forgot. I actually planned to do it because it arrived this morning. So yeah,
Well, we'll look forward to see it in a future piece of content right here on the Board YouTube channel. Thank you so much, everybody who did tune in. Hopefully, you got some value out of this one. Keep it locked with the channel by subscribing for more NBA content down the line in the offseason. Drop a like before you go. Me and Pips will be back soon, and we hope to see you there.